So, what we did so far. We understood the client brief, we extracted the brand identity, we reverse engineer reference images using the visual syntax, we prepared the product photo to use in AI photography, and now we're going to create the AI photography, and then we're going to check for accuracy, realism, and branding, and probably I'll talk a bit about how to deliver AI photography products. Okay, so let's go ahead. So the main thing here that we want to do is understand a few things, which I will shortly mention here. Number one is that basically now we have a base prompt that we use when we kind of reverse engineer things. If you remember in a previous video, we understand the style, we understand the subject, the action, the scene, the olive tree, olive branches, the camera, the brand, so on. So we have a very good starting point here. We know that the client wants, from our analysis of the brief, they want a sample. We want to create a sample, and it's going to be product-only shots and women holding the product, essentially. So we have a very good base to start with. Now, I could fit this starting prompt into an AI. Like, I can take this, okay? And like I could go to ChatGPT here, for instance, and I could say, help me fill in the blanks and expand this prompt with a couple concepts. There we go. So you can see now that I have a good base, it's very easy to build upon it. Now it's just kind of expanding, making it more precise, and it's giving me a couple of concepts. One is Mediterranean calm, and the other is sunlit ritual. Okay, so that's one way to do it. We're gonna do it in Dezygn shortly, but this is just like some advice here. Okay, so expand your base prompt with an AI. Next, prompting and iteration. Okay, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna generate an image, and if it doesn't look good, if it doesn't work, we're gonna generate more images. All right. So it involves iteration. With prompting and iteration, every word matters. Okay. So at some point, like at the beginning, I can just copy and paste that and just say, okay, let's see if I'm lucky, right? Let's see if that works. But if I want to do it actually more seriously, if I'm not getting the result I want, if I feel the AI is not understanding me, it means I will need to review each and every word, because sometimes the AI will hallucinate things and will add things into your prompt which you don't want. And so at some point you might need to iterate, and this means that to basically play with the words, because this is our input. Okay, so just to be aware that every word matters here. At some point, if I'm not getting what I want, it's probably a problem with the word. Okay, also some concepts won't work. Okay, so maybe at first I have this idea of Mediterranean calm. Okay, this is a concept where I don't know, it's a particular concept for this image, right? And so maybe I will try it like 100 times and it just doesn't work, and I think it's okay to understand that. Like, not every concept works. There's many ways to skin a cat, and there's many ways to represent a product, right? And create a lifestyle image, right? So if one way is not working, just try to think of another way, another creative way to achieve your goal, and that is sometimes a solution, because not some things just don't work with AI. Okay, and so you want to be aware that you're going to have to iterate a lot. Okay, and I'm going to talk about this in a second when I talk about the volume. Next, the ingredients. So ideally you want to research and create every part of your visual syntax ahead, subject, background, etc. for bigger jobs, for more important jobs. So what this means is, you see now here I kind of outline what I wanted, right? So now if it was a brand where it's a big client, I need to get it right first, and it's very, very important work. What I will do is I will create these elements, or I will research these elements separately. Okay, for instance, the subject, woman 25, Mediterranean Spanish woman, dark hair, wearing a linen robe, I would go ahead and I would create that as an image that I can then use in my prompt, okay, rather than try to create it all at once, okay. Then what I would do, I would create or research olive trees online and see which olive tree do I want in my image. I would create or research linen robes, okay, and see which one I want to use. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take this prompt essentially and attach one of these images and say just generate. So whatever woman comes out, whatever linen robe comes out, whatever olive tree, it doesn't matter, because this is an example and I'm showing you the whole process. But if I'm doing it properly for a client that is, or is paying me enough, that's why I advise to charge high enough prices, I would actually go and first create the woman, make sure I nail the aesthetic of the woman right, then make sure I get the aesthetic of the robe of the woman is wearing right, then put these two together, and then only do the final kind of merging together of the woman, the cream and the scene and the olive tree and so on, right? So I would basically do more research, right? And that's just something to be aware of, that every one of these elements, of these ingredients here, can be an image as well, as I explained in my visual syntax formula. So I could basically just do the research and be more precise. Now it's going to be a bit more like the lottery, because I didn't really create a woman, I didn't do anything like that, so that's just something to be aware. Volume. You might need to generate 100 images to create a single good one. This is not always the case, but it has definitely happened to me, where for a client where I needed a specific result, and especially when it comes to accuracy, I needed to create 100 images with AI before I got a single good result, okay? Or maybe I got like 3 or 4 good results, and out of these, the client only kept one, right? So that's something to be aware of, and that's why as well, this is not a cheap skill. This is not something you can sell for cheap, because it takes time. Obviously, if you're generating 100 images, with all the waiting in between, you're probably looking between 1 and 2 hours just generating images, okay? Next thing is to be cost aware, because there is a cost to doing this, obviously. So for instance, if I'm using Nano Banana Pro, I'm using an API right now to use it in Dezygn. It's costing me about 15 cents per image. So if I were to generate 100 images like in this example, that would cost me $15 USD. So again, if I'm charging the client $10 per image, then, I'm losing money, essentially. I'm losing $5. I'm losing my time as well, right? I spend 2 hours on this. I get paid $10, and then it costs me $15 in cost. It's not a good deal. If I use Nano Banana, which is also called Gemini 2.5 Flash Image, not the Pro version, it's 0.039 cents per image. That's still $4 if I'm creating 100 images. Okay, so just something to be aware of. Like, to me, I prefer these models right now. In Dezygn, we have a fast model as well, which is much cheaper, which is called Z Image. So we have these 3. We have Z Image, Nano Banana Pro. But I usually work here with Nano Banana, and sometimes for the final image I would use the Pro, right?